Eliza Hidden was an ill-tempered harridan of a woman. She had a hooked nose and she had piercing black eyes. She was scabby. She had a toothless slit of a mouth that enclosed a vicious tongue. The villagers of Kintbury, behind her back, of course, called her the Kintbury Witch. All the same, when a horse went lame, or when they lost a ring, they would consult the Kintbury Witch, and she exacted a high price, not in currency, but in indebtedness. And thus she accumulated her power. The person who was most in debt to her was a farmer by the name of Tobias Tubb. He had suffered a string of misfortunes. His sheep miscarried. His crops withered in the fields. His cows went barren. All the time, Eliza was there with a salve for the sheep, an incantation for the crops, a concoction for the cows. And so Tobias Tubb grew deeper and deeper into Eliza's debt. The villagers of Kintbury were very proud of their fine old minster with its peal of 4 bells. The deepest bell, which was known as the Kintbury bell, was the deepest bell of all, a tenor bell, 30 inches right across the bell and weighing 10 hundredweight and 2 quarters. In one midwinter storm, the wind battered against the church tower, and the whole tower began to swing, and the bells began to sound chaotically. And then some of the masonry began to fall, and it fell onto the Kintbury bell and cracked it asunder. A short time later, the villagers moved the bell and very carefully placed it on a pontoon on the River Kennet nearby, so that they could send it up the river to the Oldbourne foundry for repair. And there was the Kintbury Witch with a malicious smile on her face on the opposite bank. When the bell came back, repaired on its pontoon, there she was again on the opposite bank, conjuring mischief. And just as they were about to lift the bell onto the bank, there was a turbulence in the water, and the pontoon began to swing from side to side, and it swung more and it swung more until the bell fell down into the River Kennet and down into the mud at the bottom. The opposite bank, Eliza Hidden was doing a little jig, and a malicious smile grew right across her features. And then, with a dismissive wave of her gnarled hand, she walked away. Well, the villagers tried to heave the bell out of the depths, one attempt after another. And all the time, there was Eliza hidden on the opposite bank, doing her little jig, grinning her malicious grin. Finally, the villagers decided to send two of their elders to the next village of Boxford to consult the Wizard of Boxford, actually one of Eliza's bitterest rivals, to ask him what they might do to restore their bell. And this is what he said to them. One midnight of bright silver stars, when the moon is full, a new chain shall be threaded through the argent of the bell. To this chain tie the traces of 12 oxen in a row. The oxen shall be as white as newly fallen snow. 12 maids in white, each with a blood-red sash, shall lead the oxen with a silken lash, who, wielding their whips of silken thong, shall drive the oxen silently along. While from the depths the Kintbury bell is drawn, no one shall speak a word, nor sneeze, nor cough, nor groan, but shall be as mute and silent as carved stone. Or else the sacred charm will break in twain. Then you will never see the bell again, and all your hope, heartache, and cost will be in vain. The villagers worked very hard on putting that plan together. And so, one midnight, when the stars were silvery bright and the moon was full, a brave cowhand dived down into the depths of the River Kennet and fastened a bright new chain to the argent of the bell. And that was fastened to the cows, the milk-white cows, and then the maids led them forward, wearing their white dresses and their red sashes and their silken thongs. Slowly, 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 the oxen moved forward, and slowly, 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 the Kintbury bell rose from the mud and broke the surface of the water of the Kennet. And there was silence. No one spoke a word, or coughed, or sneezed, or groaned. Slowly, slowly the bell lifted from the waves, and it was just about to tip over onto the bank, when there was a great shout. Here comes the Kintbury great bell, despite all the devils of hell. Tobias Tubb had cleared his indebtedness to the Kintbury witch at a stroke. The villagers were utterly disheartened. On the opposite bank, the Kintbury witch was dancing her jig, was leaping up and down. Her face was full of radiance of joy at what she had achieved. Following day, those elders, they returned to the Wizard of Boxford, downhearted, and they asked him what they could do. Well, they came back in better spirits. They called together the 4 bell ringers, and they told them what to do. 3 of them were to stand by their bell ropes. The 4th one, the ringer of the Kintbury bell. He was to stand where he normally stood, to ring the bell. And he was to think about the bell. He was to connect with its deep sound. He was to feel his affinity with the bell. And then all the villagers were asked to think about the bell, to recall the sound of the full peal. And then the elders asked the bell ringers to start to ring around. And at first they just heard 3 bells. And then they heard a sound coming from the depths of the River Kennet. It was the sound of the Kintbury bell. And it got louder and louder and louder until the full peal of 4 bells was heard once more, with the sound of the Kintbury bell coming loudly from the bottom of the River Kennet. With flowing ale and full bellies, they rejoiced at the restoration of the Kintbury bell. Everybody in the village, even the shamefaced Tobias Tubb. All that is, except Eliza Hidden, who gnashed her blackened gums with rage.